inches apart. Rose noticed how the tips of the man's shabby and worn shoes pointed skyward. It's about the way an undertaker would do it, Rose thought. But the mysterious man's eyes betrayed his fate. Half open, in a frozen stare, looking at the hazy morning sky. The men were confused by the body's neat position along the road. Taxter explained how he first came upon the body around 7 a.m., while riding with other linemen to a job site near the reservoir. He made clear that neither he nor any lineman had touched or moved the body. Taxter stayed behind to find help for the man, walking up to Artson Farm and calling on Eckert, who was also perplexed by how the man could have ended up along the side of the road. He hadn't heard anything unusual in the early morning hours that could explain the man's demise. This stretch of road was fairly isolated, and Burke, his farmhand, lived not more than 200 feet up the hill, and he said he hadn't heard any noises that morning except the usual traffic. They thought the man might have been hit by a passing car, though that didn't explain how his body could be so perfectly composed. It must have been a strange scene along King Street, as those 5 strangers gathered around a corpse, as if attending a funeral for a man they did not know. Being a pharmacist, Rose might have felt a duty to make sure the man was dead. "I reached over and felt his pulse," he later told authorities. "There was no sign of life. The body was cold," he remembered. Both Rose and Eckert took notice of the man's frayed and soiled suit and how his shoes were badly worn. While the suit was of a good quality, well-tailored, double-breasted, it had seen better days. Underneath his jacket, he wore a tattered vest. Looking into the man's jacket pocket, Rose noticed a tin cigarette case, but he thought better than to rummage through the man's possessions or explore any further. "You might leave fingerprints on the body," Taxter warned. Fingerprinting was a relatively new practice for crime investigations. Lawyers often debated the reliability of such evidence in courts. It was more common to find such evidence in the era's popular crime novels, which might have been where Taxter learned of it and why he was so concerned. They all noticed the one set of tire tracks in the gravel near the body. The heavy indentation of the tracks indicated the car had stopped abruptly, as if the driver sped along and suddenly, for some reason, picked that spot to brake at the last minute. Nothing indicated a fight or a struggle. They saw no evidence that the body might have been dragged or dropped there. Rose got back into his car and told Eckert he would call the police once he arrived at the pharmacy in White Plains. We can imagine how torn Rose might have been, caught between anxious thoughts of his customers pressing their faces against the darkened pharmacy windows and his unease with the scene in front of him. Rose had taken King Street most mornings and could practically drive the route from Chappaqua to White Plains blindfolded. He knew every turn and curve and rough patch. At that moment, though, the road seemed completely new and strange, as if he had never passed that spot before, never noticed Artson Farm, and certainly had never met nor spoken a word to Clarence Eckert. But what unsettled the pharmacist the most was the mysterious man's expression. Rose knew it would be a while before he would forget the image of this young man's half-open eyes and their lifeless, empty stare into the beautiful May morning. The crime. Kensico. The Kensico Reservoir got its name from the small hamlet submerged within its waters. A rural outpost founded in the 18th century, Kensico had been in the heart of the Silanoy lands that stretched across current-day Westchester County, far into Connecticut, and along the northern shores of Long Island Sound. It's believed the town was named after their tribal chief, Kensico. Sitting in a valley near the Bronx River proved an unfortunate place to be as New York City bulged in population and ambition in the late 19th century. In its need to supply the city with fresh water, in the 1880s, the state planned to construct a reservoir contained by a small earthen dam that would flood the valley and sink the hamlet. The state purchased every property in Kensico, and fearing that the buildings would contaminate the reservoir, city health officials directed a team of men to take each of the town's buildings, its houses, hotel, the Methodist church, several saloons, one school, and a number of